It's a little dark in my apartment tonight. I hope it comes out better on the video than I think it's going to. But I wanted to do, now first I want to get off to a start stating in this video, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an endocrinologist, blah 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 blah. Don't take anything I say in this video as medical advice. It's not medical advice. Period. Don't take my advice as medical advice. This is for entertainment purposes and only entertainment purposes. Therefore, let me begin. Now, there's a gentleman, and he's a bodybuilding champion, Greg Doucette. Now, the thing that I want people to understand, I'm not dissing Greg Doucette. The video, I don't disagree at all with any of the facts stated by Greg Doucette. These are facts. You can't disagree with facts. Well, you can, but you'd be crazy. So, Greg Doucette made a video called "Sugar is Good for You." Okay, that's true. Depending on the situation, sugar can be good for you. One of the things that he used was, now he sounds like Gilbert Gottfried, which is kind of hilarious. I suppose a lot of people make fun of his voice because he brings up his own voice, but he states in the video, if you're a type 1 diabetic and you have a low blood sugar, what do you want somebody to bring to you? The salad or the sugar? Okay, so I'm paraphrasing. I think he said the salad or something with sugar. Growing up with a mother with type 1 diabetes, she was diagnosed diabetes when she was 8 years old and died when she was like 58, I believe. I had to do a lot to take care of her. My dad died when I was around 14, and my mom was, on top of being a type 1 diabetic, was also a drug addict, an alcoholic, things like that. So what I want to point out, now hopefully the people watching Greg's videos primarily are bodybuilders. See, the thing is, he did a great job explaining why sugar can be good for you and why fruit can be good for you. The problem is, for the average person, if a normal... Now, I understood that because I have an education in nutrition, okay? However, the average person does not grasp that. And when somebody hears sugar can be good for you, what they hear is sugar is good for you, and therefore I'm going to eat as much of it as I possibly can. One of Dr. Sears's books, one of the Zone diets, he explains why people unfortunately have the mindset that if sugar is what powers you, then the more candy bars I eat, the more powerful I'll become. The problem is the hormonal response to sugar. A calorie is not a calorie is a calorie. The thing is that the whole calorie is a calorie thing, not true. It is true calories in, calories out is the basis for most people of how to lose weight. However, there is a metabolic advantage to a ketogenic diet. That's also true. But the fact of the matter is that the problem with the idea that you can eat lots of sugar, if you eat 2,000 calories of sugar and nothing else, you'll still lose weight if your caloric limit is, say, 2,700, okay? That's great. You will lose weight if you do that, most likely. But the problem is what it does to your system is not so pretty. Excess sugar does cause insulin resistance, whether or not you're eating over your caloric needs in sugar or not. If you're simply eating too much sugar, it will cause insulin resistance. Whether or not you're reducing calories of protein or fat, it will ramp up the insulin resistance. It makes your body produce more insulin, blah, 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 blah. And some people are saying, well, doesn't protein cause you to release insulin also? Yes, but not as much. Now, getting back to the thing with diabetes, if somebody is pre-diabetic or diabetic, type 2 diabetic, or type 1 diabetic for that matter, generally speaking, they need to control their consumption of carbohydrate, okay? generally speaking. Not if you're a type 1 diabetic and develop a low sugar, that's a different story. That's why they make like glucose tablets and glucagon injections and things like that. But that's for very special circumstances. I know this because I was giving my mother glucagon at the age of like 14, 15, when I would test her blood sugar and it would come up as like 50. So I understand how that works. I also understand what Doucette was saying about with cycling and endurance training and things of that nature, where you might want something with some sugar in it to get you going, to keep you going, I should say, and for recovery. I also liked how he brought up, well, actually, no, I think that was in a different video, but he brought up the protein-sparing aspects of carbohydrates and fats, how they're protein-sparing and they allow your body to not break down as much protein, meaning not to lose as much protein in muscle and other tissues. Now, that's a good thing to understand, but ultimately, refined sugar, and I do like what he pointed out, refined sugar is refined sugar like cocaine, like he was saying. I agree with him on this. If you give somebody, his analogy was, if you give somebody a bowl of sugar and a spoon and tell them to dig in, they're not going to get very far. And also with the sweeteners, like NutraSweet and Splenda, which Splenda tastes virtually identical to sugar, you don't see people ripping open sugar twin packs and knocking them back, okay? Because it doesn't taste very good unless you put it into something else. Like until you put it with, say, some fats or carbohydrates, such as, pancakes with syrup and things of that nature. The other thing is his talk about fructose. There's a difference between the fructose in fruit and the fructose in the high fructose corn syrup. I know it sounds bizarre, but it is true that the fructose in fruit can indeed impede your health too. On the starch-centered diet that I was on, I would eat also apples, lots of apples, which are high in sugar, when I was trying the 80-10-10 type diet, which was similar to the starch solution. And my triglycerides went way up, okay, from eating apples. No refined sugar, no refined carbohydrates, okay, just sugar and potatoes and whole grains and things of that nature. But all that starch and all that sugar did drive my triglycerides up. Now, my cholesterol was still low, but my triglycerides went up due to the sugar I was consuming. And that sugar was natural sugar. But the sugar in Coca-Cola does seem to increase the risk of fatty liver and things of that nature. So I think what the issue is the concentration of the fructose that you get from something like a soda. Now, I did like how he brought up the need to use artificial sweeteners. I still have to make my video about diet sodas and why diet sodas aren't bad for you. Maybe I'll call it Diet Soda is Good for You. And the fact of the matter is, I did like that he brought up the use of artificial sweeteners in his own cookbook. I've never read his cookbook, but I wouldn't be able to implement it unless I veganized the recipes. But my presumption is his cookbook will work. Now, people might be asking, how did I find Greg Doucette? I don't know who he is, honestly. A lot of the bodybuilders I learned about are much from before Greg Doucette's time. Okay, way before in some cases. I like learning about the bodybuilders from the late 1800s and what have you, and the early 1900s, even pre-Joe Weider and things like that. What I found is when you're trying to achieve something, it helps to immerse yourself in that culture, in that fitness culture. Fitness culture for me, because I'm trying to get fit again. I went too lax on my fitness for years. And this is the thing that I'm going to point this out in this video. Essentially, what people need to understand is you can't take your health for granted, which is what I did. I got to the point where I was so healthy for so long, doing so little. Not really doing so little, it's because I stuck to a perfect diet with perfect macros, with a perfect fitness regime every day, stretching, weightlifting, cardio. I would do these things every day. And then I got off track. A lot of things, from relationship nonsense to being homeless for like 4 years, to a lot of things got me off track of my fitness goals, which was to be very healthy. So what I found is it helps to immerse yourself with that culture. Read about that. I mean, it sounds like common sense, and it is common sense. Read books on fitness. Read books on health. Watch fitness videos on YouTube. Do things that involve fitness. Surround yourself with people that are interested in fitness. That's what you need to do. And then I had to actually look at the fact, my fitness goals right now, which are to reclaim my health, to reverse a lot of these issues I developed, reverse the tachycardia, reverse the asthma, reverse these problems that I developed over the years by not, and it wasn't like I was even doing the wrong thing. Okay, that's the funny thing. I wasn't like knocking back a 30-pack of beer a day, although I did sometimes when I was younger, back when I was following my perfect diet and whatnot. I had my days where I would knock back 20, 30 beers. I mean, I was quite, I had quite an appetite for partying when I was younger, in my early 20s and what have you, and my teens. But the fact of the matter is, my health didn't begin declining until probably about 10 years ago, when I quit doing everything exactly right. And then when I started re-implementing my normal high-protein vegan diet after being homeless, because when I was homeless, when you're homeless, you eat whatever you can get. And you don't eat very much. Basically, if you go 2 weeks without eating, if I'm going to eat a hot dog because it's free at work, I'm eating a hot dog because it's free at work when I'm homeless. You know what I mean? So after the homelessness, which was severe caloric restriction, my health actually didn't even really begin to decline. My mental health did, but my physical health was actually pretty good, despite the fact that I was grossly underweight. My physical health was pretty good. Then after, and despite smoking, I took up smoking when I was homeless. I was smoking about a pack a day, which I quit about 6 years ago now. But I was smoking about a pack a day 6 years ago. And despite that, my health remained the same because of the vigorous daily exercise. When I was walking pretty much, if I wasn't working, I was walking. That's what it boils down to. So that's what kept my health where it was, okay, which was good. My health was good. And then after being homeless, I'd say about 9 years ago or so, my health began to decline because I didn't want to do anything anymore. I didn't want to go for walks. I didn't want to exercise anymore. I figured I did enough of that. I was already grossly underweight. I should be fine. So then I started eating, I'm going to eat this and that, da-da-da-da-da. Then about 3 or so years ago, I got back into fitness, and I was doing great. I got back, that's when I started eating the high-protein diet again, high-protein vegan diet, and started lifting weights again. And then I had this ridiculous idea that I was going to test out what Dr. McDougall said, that, starches build muscle, which is counterintuitive. It still is counterintuitive to me. It doesn't make sense to me. But what I did find is that such a diet does work as long as you're exercising 3 to 6 hours a day. A starch-centered diet does help. And this goes back to the carbohydrates. Eating about 15 to 2,000 and some calories of a starch-centered diet a day did not do me any favors. Okay? However, when I was weightlifting, back in the day, when I was taking karate 3 times a day and what have you, when I was eating 3,000 calories of a high protein, either an omnivorous diet or a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet, it didn't matter. But when I was eating 3,000 or sometimes even more calories per day of a vegan diet, or not a vegan, of a high protein diet, not a high starch diet, but a low starch diet where starches were almost completely eradicated, and low sugar diet, did me a lot of good as far as my health was concerned. And that's where I really do not like when people promote the concept that sugar is not dangerous. Sugar is useful. And that's what I did like about Doucette's video is he points out that there is a time, a place, and a circumstance for every macronutrient to be utilized properly. However, refined sugar, doing without refined sugar, barring a unique situation where you have a disease such as type 1 diabetes, or where you need it for recovery because you burn up all your muscle glycogen because you've been pedaling all day. Barring some bizarre instance like that, you do not need to be taking in pure glucose. I mean that, or pure fructose, or pure sucrose, or things of that nature to replenish your carbohydrates. You can, and it works. Like if you're a runner or a cyclist or a swimmer or things like that, it works. But again, I think it's the wrong message to be sending to the average person. Hopefully most of the people that watch Doucette's videos are bodybuilders or fitness enthusiasts with some nutrition education that understand what he's saying, because he did do an amazing job of explaining it, but that's the only thing that I would say. I would hope that the people watching his videos tend to be more mindful of what they eat. You would think they would, because probably most of them are bodybuilders. But that's never really, I've met some bodybuilders, like Greg himself said, he didn't know about protein when he started bodybuilding, which is kind of weird, because I think he said he started bodybuilding about 20 years ago, and we knew about that. I don't know if he just didn't have access to the education, but he started on pasta. Now, pasta does have protein. In fact, the protein in pasta is gluten, which is seitan, or Satan, however you want to say it, which is vegan meat, but it's not dense enough in protein because it's not pure gluten. It's, starches and things of that nature. But the truth of the matter is it can get scary, because I've met some fitness enthusiasts. I think the best example of this is the carnivore dieters. But I've met some bodybuilder type people. My brother was very much into fitness when he was younger, and he tried a wackadoodle diet, which was literally zero fat, basically all protein, very little carbohydrates, mostly tuna, straight tuna, very little added, almost no added fat, and that was his diet. And people go, oh, well, that sounds like a health-promoting diet. People that don't understand nutrition and don't understand the need for fats and phospholipids and things of that nature. It's not healthy. A fattier fish like sardines or salmon or mackerel, that might be helpful, but to have a tuna-centered diet and not have barely any vegetables, barely any starches, no fat, no olive oil, no canola oil, no butter, no nothing like that. You have to understand that people take things very wrongly, and that's the thing. Is working with fat people, having been fat in the past, regaining a lot of fat, losing fat all over again. I got fat on a whole food vegan diet. So it really does depend on what you're putting into your body and what the ratios are, in my opinion. And I'm going to leave links to Dr. Sears from the Zone Diet explaining insulin resistance. Another link, again, to Dr. Atkins explaining how the Atkins diet actually works. And I'm going to leave a video to Greg Doucette's book. I would probably, I'm not going to read his book, because I'm not going to buy a book that I can't utilize, period. I'm not going to be able to use his book because it's probably a very meat-centered book. But to omnivores, I would probably say go buy his book, because it seems like it would be very helpful to a lot of people at maintaining a healthy body mass index. And that's all for this video.